So I was on a run and news started breaking, so it's time for some late night Niners. This is the 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here coming at you from the crib, and this is why you subscribe. During free agency, no matter where I am, you can always count on a video to keep you up to date and in the know with all things San Francisco. Why we're doing this show, 49ers losing some important pieces to the team that went 14-3. Ended the season on a 12-game winning streak prior to losing in the NFC Championship game. We're going to talk about the losses for the Niners, but also San Francisco restructuring the contract for Fred Warner, clearing up about $10 million. So is a big move coming after losing these players, not paying them, and then clearing up some money from Fred Warner's contract. Before we get started, though, I tweeted out earlier today, and it was hilarious. Peak Twitter, people in shambles, all types of responses. I absolutely loved it because I love the engagement on Twitter, people ripping me, some people agreeing with me, but I tend to be in the minority. I had said that from the NFC Championship game until right now, day 2 of NFL free agency, the 49ers are not a better team. A lot of people, like I said, disagree with me. So let me know what you think. Are the 49ers right now better or worse than they were to end last year? Type B for better, W for worse. This is the pinned comment, so thread your responses there on that pinned comment. The free agency moves to get caught up on for San Francisco. Losing some really important players who all played important roles for this football team in 2022. Samson Ebukam signing a 3-year, $27 million contract to sign with the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Brunskill heading to the Tennessee Titans. He's following Ran Carthon there. And Charles Omenihu to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a 2-year, $16 million deal to the defending Super Bowl champions, worth up to $10 million per year. As for Samson Ebukam, a speed rusher who is coveted on the free agency market, we had started hearing some buzz at the NFL Combine that he was a name that was picking up some steam because a lot of teams who are in need of a pass rush look at a player like that who's still young, who's skilled, who's very quick coming off the edge as a guy who can get after the opposing quarterback and be very valuable and cause havoc for their defense. And this is a guy who the Niners signed an NFL free agency from the Los Angeles Rams in 2020. And it was an acquisition at the time for a player who was starting to blossom a little bit. He goes on to DeMeco Ryans' scheme, and in that scheme, he played really well. Chris Kosaric for both Brunskill, Charles Omenihu, and Arden Key, who we're going to talk about, elevated their games like he often does as the best defensive line coach in the NFL. Ebukam and Omenihu specifically byproducts of working with Chris Kosaric. He's a mastermind when it comes to developing these defensive linemen. So 5 sacks for Omenihu in 2022, 4 in 2021. People are looking at him as a player who can continue to get a little bit better. Now he goes to Indy on a good defensive line. DeForest Buckner also there. So he's going to have some matchups to exploit. Market expected to be fat, and it was. That's why he's getting this deal, $9 million average annual value. For Daniel Brunskill, 29 years old, played 519 offensive snaps last year despite only starting 2 games. This is a coaching staff that loved Daniel Brunskill. Why? Because during his time in San Francisco, he played right guard, center, and right tackle. He started some games whenever the Niners needed him to fill in, either because of an injury or subpar play. He did that. He succeeded. He played well. And when he had to go up against Aaron Donald, he played extraordinarily good football and was stout against one of the best defensive players that we've ever seen, and maybe the best defensive tackle of all time. For some reason, Daniel Brunskill always played pretty well against Aaron Donald. 4 seasons with San Francisco, started every single game in 2020 as well as in 2021, and in his career, he has appeared in 61 games with 42 starts. He goes to Tennessee with Ran Carthon, former director of pro personnel for San Francisco, as he continues to really shape that roster with how he wants it to be, and Daniel Brunskill probably going to have an opportunity to start for the Titans on that offensive line. As for Charles Omenihu, trade deadline acquisition in 2021. Pretty neat story for him. Choppy first couple of years in the NFL after being a fifth-round pick out of Texas by the Houston Texans. Wasn't all that good to start his career. He was big, an athlete, didn't lead to a lot of production. The Niners made a trade deadline move for him in 2021. He started to grasp that system, played really well against the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round, had a good end of the regular season, into the playoffs. That momentum carried over into this year, and he, like Samson Ebukam, kind of looked at as an analytical darling, a guy who's burgeoning, getting better, improving, and still has room to develop, and a nice little skill set to tap into. I loved Omenihu the last couple of years here for this defense because Chris Kosarek, D'Amico Ryans really used him as a chess piece. A guy who could play edge, but could also slide to the interior of that defensive line. Third on the team in sacks this past year with 4.5. Arden Key now. This was a guy who I wouldn't have minded the Niners bringing back, and another one of those Chris Kosarek developmental pieces who played really good in 2021 and cashed in on a one-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rand Carthen now signing Samson Ebukam, now signing Daniel Brunskill, now also signing Arden Key. He's made a couple of moves there. Azeez Al-Shire today, who we talked about a little bit earlier. Azeez Al-Shire leaving for the Titans as well. He's a really good linebacker. So Rand Carthen loading up on some former Niners and guys who he's really familiar with, and I like how that roster is taking shape outside of that quarterback position. So those are the players who are moving on from the Niners. And does this tell you that with the restructure of Fred Warner to open up about $10 million, and they're not retaining Azeez Al-Shire, Arden Key, Charles Omenihu, Daniel Brunskill, and Samson Ebukam, all guys who are kind of cashing in elsewhere, that a big move potentially could be happening or down the road for San Francisco? We've been talking a lot about edge rusher opposite of Nick Bosa. There are still some really good edge rushers out there. If they get a Yannick Ngakoue, that's the move that I've been clamoring for. That could be an awesome move for San Francisco to help out Bosa, who got a little bit tired toward the end of the season and didn't have a sack the last month. Or is it going to be a player elsewhere? I think that they're set offensively. The right tackles, the good ones, are kind of off the market, in my opinion. Some good ones that they can actually afford, or should I say, tackles that they should and could afford to the talent level, I think are kind of off the market for the Niners. So is it going to be another edge rusher? Could they go after a safety? Something could be brewing for San Francisco here with the money saved and the money restructured on that Fred Warner deal. All right. Late night Niners here on the 49ers Report. Appreciate all of y'all for hanging out. If you're still here watching the video, because right now it's about 11 o'clock on the East Coast, it's about 8 o'clock on the West Coast, type real one. And if you have those noties on, I appreciate you. If you don't, turn them on and subscribe, because when we push out a video, even if it's late like this, you'll be notified. We'll catch you tomorrow on the 49ers Report.